Hello everyone and welcome back to the campaign diary for my Rime of the Frostmaiden campaign Aracséa edition. In today's session we see the battle with an elusive giant, infiltrate an abandoned bunker and come face to face with the Fallen. So today's session will end towards the late afternoon of the 19th of Caerldin. And so this one has some juicy Fallen bits and a bit of environmental storytelling that I hope the group picked up on. Also, I tried something different here and to do a more traditional, smaller encounters leading up to the boss rather than have just like one big encounter. Usually, I just like doing like the one big fight, but like trying to find that balance with like party resources and just doing that, it can make it way too easy a lot of the time. So and plus we hadn't had a good fight in a while, so I thought it was a good chance to just sprinkling some smaller fights before we got to the end. Picking up directly from where we left off, the crew are on the shores of the northeast of Lancashire, and they find a rowing boat on the shore with what looks like a dwargar ripped in half, hanging out the boat. There is like a thin mist around them, obscuring vision, and they also notice that their breath seems to almost immediately crystallize in the air, effects that seem only to intensify the further east they travel. Make a note here that it's the further east they get, the more closer, or however you want to say that, they get to the Ragged Glacier. Is what's affecting that. They haven't put that together, but it's the closer that they're getting to that glacier, and the more they're noticing this kind of magical rhyme effect. And I think we'll talk about that at a different time when we're more easier to talk about that kind of thing. Anyway, after a quick survival check to ascertain some footprints and drag marks of the figurehead leading off to the north, they are attacked by three winter wolves that were attracted by the preserved blood underneath the rime that had formed on the Dwargar. It's a pretty simple combat. They do take some damage. Mutiny is able to heal them up, obviously, with her spells. They do talk about making some short rests, but Hruna does remind them they're already probably a bit behind. It's important that they get this done quickly. Um, so they do. They follow Mutiny into like this ice valley, and I describe it as kind of like walking into like the base of a gorge or something. You know, either side of them there's this high wall of caverns and frozen structures of ice, which are almost like frozen tidal waves. You know, caught halfway, like above them, like curved and arched like hooks all around them. The entire terrain is somewhat disorientating to look at as everything kind of blends into each other. And Fallsburn, who is somewhat familiar with like this similar sort of terrain up further up north, knows that this is amazing terrain to lay ambushes in. So with that in mind, they do a series of skill checks and lookouts as they kind of traverse through this land and do various bits and bobs. The entire process probably took about an hour of actual game time as you just kind of traverse this land. Ultimately, it culminated in them being ambushed by a crag giant, one who blended in with the surrounding terrain. It threw a boulder down from its elevated position and almost directly on top of the group, and yeah, the battle ensues. So this crag giant also had a nice special ability to help even the odds, especially with the ranger, is that it could basically catch projectiles and not take damage from them. So it made it more or less more of a puzzle than a fight. Where the fit party had to figure out how they were going to get up to this elevated position and take it out. So the fight went on for a while, and I think the party actually took a fair amount of damage from this. I think they all took a pretty hard hits. Fallsburn and Mutiny in the last few fights had made comments to me that they seem to not be taking much damage, normally because things either get felled quickly or Freda gets in the way. But of course, they will soon learn to regret those words, as I'm sure they did in that session, as they took quite a hefty amount of the damage. So next, moving quite quickly on, they came up to an abandoned fort and make a quick stop to figure out how they wish to approach. They noticed after a few perception rolls and things that there is a significant lack of guards. They sneak their way in past like a smaller bunker, which they discover was empty. Where it should like have heavy crossbows and things there ready to be manned, but there's no one in there. A Mutiny ascends a tower after now reaching level 6. She has access to her other ranger thing. I can't remember what it's called. Where she gets like a climb speed and swim speed equal to her movement. Um, yeah, she climbs up a tower and gets a kind of a top-down look at things, look at the balconies and then external defences, and also finds out that they are unmanned. So yeah, it's at this point I hope they clicked on to the fact that they may have been too late and everyone may have gone already. Unless they continue inside through the front door and have a little explore around, they continue to follow the drag marks of the figurehead through to a barracks, where on the floor they see a large circle inset, a chalk circle inset with arcane symbols, something Thrader recognised that Stronus had once called a teleportation circle. They had seen one before in Gora's lab underneath the carpet. Which of course should have the characters asking, okay, where does this lead? What's happening here? Uh, you and I will obviously know this is the work of Dunamis, Vokun, and obviously there's got to be some sort of high level magic people in this kind of operation, and obviously leads straight to wherever their base of operations is. Um, so yes, they continue following those marks past this further into the armory, where they pick up some magic items that have been left behind by the Dwargar. This was definitely a chance for me to just give them stuff straight up that they had missed elsewhere, or likewise. My campaigns are usually quite light with magic items, but like they are around and you can find them, but that's the thing, you have to find them, and the party have missed a lot of them. In one of my other games, I think I'd put the same item in 3 separate locations, and someone still didn't find it. So in the end, I just had to straight up give them like this magic weapon that they had it was dangled in front of them for like 6 levels or something, and they just weren't able to find it. But yeah. Just gave them a few bits and bobs to help them along. Nothing too powerful. I think there was like some better armor in there and a few other bits, some spell scrolls and things. So, after concluding, after not being able to find the figurehead, they continue to explore and they return to the main hall. And they continue up a northern corridor from there. And after a while, they hear 3 voices echoing down the hall. They overhear a conversation between Warlord Dunamis, who they've only heard of by name, Commander Nildar, who they have seen in one of their texts, and another scrawnier kind of voice, who seem to be, judging by the conversation, in charge of a reconnaissance group. I'll throw up the notes I had on the basics of the conversation. It went a little bit more in depth than what I had written, but this is the gist of what they had. I'll throw that up on screen. And like as you can see, there's a little bit more info being dropped in here, and now it should be clear to the party that they are probably a tad too late, and maybe there's some good, but yeah, maybe there is some good they could do uh, with like killing certain members and things like that. So as they approach where this is coming from, they see Warlord Dunamis is like a magical projection alongside one part of the room. Next to him is the figurehead. He seems to have already had it in his possession. I describe Dunamis as having like a pure white eyes and like this white beard, a Dwargar kind of stocky kind of guy. But of course, you and I know that this is in fact Vokun in disguise, Dunamis Zarzis. And you could imagine if Stronus was here in this moment, because then Vokun would clock him and like immediately know, oh, okay, Stronus is here. It would immediately know that something is going on. Anyway, I made it clear that Dunamis seemed to become aware of the group hiding at the door, but it doesn't reveal them to Commander Nildar, and instead just disappears. Commander Nildar and the small Dero creature, the other 2 voices, leave the room, and the party stealthily follow after them. Quite well, actually. They roll really quite well here. And they reach what is assumed to be like the command quarters, and there's a little bit more back and forth between the Dero and Nildar, and where he's finally saying like, you heard the warlord, we need to leave now and like prepare for whatever he has planned. So it's from here that Hruna kind of just immediately breaks stealth, throws a dagger square between the Dero's eyes, killing it instantly, and kind of just gets, she says that she's been waiting for this moment for a while and is ready to put down some fallen. It's worth noting that Nildar this entire time seemed to be looking for something in the shelves of his like kind of command room, like with the desk and stuff. Before the initiative hit, he is in fact looking for a latch to a secret room that something that the party will discover during the fight. It's going to be a very interesting fight. He isn't just going to be a single dude. There are some surprises he has in store. And yeah, we kind of had to leave it there, ready for the boss fight next time. There are a lot of notes and things here for the party to discover, that help push the story along and get some more information on this whole Dwagar kind of bent. And as a major story thread is kind of being laid bare before them here, and the prelude for what is coming, an incoming war that we know is happening too soon. So yeah, and just food for thought here. Imagine how different things would have been if Stronus was here. Imagine how much more impact we would have got here. Any more insights like of the magic stuff that's happened. Um, in fact, well, I've talked to Carl a little bit about has he missed Stronus not being able to be present for some of the stuff that he's encountered. And there's been, of course, he's been like, well, yeah, imagine how differently that Chain Devil thing would have gone. Would it even occurred if he was there to warn them of the stuff if he rolled high enough on checks and things? But I did actually think of at one point of having Stronus be like a captive here, or just be here on his own terms. But in my mind, he's still kind of making amends, working on the cave and being at good mead, helping things out. So yeah, that was session 20 of Fallen Fort, quickly approaching the end of Act 1 here now. And as always, thank you all for listening.